Welcome, deep divers. You know, every profession, every discipline, it has its own kind of unique path to mastery. There are those unwritten rules, right? The practices that are deeply ingrained, the subtle secrets that really separate the merely competent from the truly great.
Yeah, it's that kind of wisdom you don't usually find in textbooks, is it?
Exactly. It's like this apprenticeship of insights, often learned the hard way, through years of trial and error.
Right, by the people who've actually been there, done that, and really pushed the boundaries. It's not just theory, it's about applying knowledge in the messiness of the real world.
And for this deep dive, we're cracking open a real treasure chest
Audiobook is brought
of
to you
that
by
kind of
Sunil
wisdom.
Sharma,
A listener
dedicated
actually gave us
designer.
this fantastic compilation.
Oh, interesting. What is it?
It's called 365 Habits of Successful Graphic Designers. Insider secrets from top designers on working smart and staying creative.
Ah, okay. That sounds like a goldmine. And habits, that suggests practical, repeatable stuff.
Totally. And it's fascinating because it pulls insights from the entire spectrum of the design world. You've got the big names from huge firms. You've got solo practitioners.
Like the ones working out of their home studios, maybe.
Yeah, and even the up-and-comers, the ones just making their mark. So you get this incredibly rich, diverse perspective. It feels both aspirational and, immediately useful.
That's the sweet spot. So what's our mission here? What are we trying to pull out of this for you listening?
Well, our goal today is to really unpack these hard-won lessons, pull out the most potent nuggets of knowledge. We want to give you, the listener, a kind of shortcut.
A shortcut to being well-informed.
Exactly. Not just about graphic design specifically, though that's our focus, but about principles that are transferable. Things that can boost success in pretty much any creative or professional field you're in.
That makes sense. Graphic design itself is such an interesting blend, isn't it? It's part art, part commerce.
Absolutely. It's this constant balancing act. Designers are dealing with, the science of color like Pantone spot colors versus CMYK process printing.
The precision of grids, pixels.
Right, all that technical stuff, while also trying to harness this creative impulse into something that serves a very specific business goal.
It's a real tightrope walk. And does the book address that tension?
Oh, definitely. It highlights it constantly. It talks about how for almost every design rule, there's a counter commandment.
Like rules are made to be broken.
Sort of. It might say, use sans serif type for headlines, but then immediately add, well, unless you're designing for the web or maybe readability needs something else.
Okay, so context matters.
Always. Or it might say, make every client feel like your only client. Great advice, right? But then it counters with, except when subtly mentioning other projects shows your experience.
Okay, so it's nuanced. It's not just a simple checklist.
Not at all. It's this dynamic between the tried and true wisdom and the need for, flexibility and sometimes breaking those rules. That's what makes the advice feel so real and useful.
But despite those seeming contradictions, you said there's consistency.
Yeah, the authors found that the good advice, the successful practices, they were surprisingly consistent across the board. It points to these universal truths about professional excellence.
So no matter where you are in your career, beginner or seasoned pro, there's likely something valuable here.
Absolutely. So let's dive in. Let's unpack these habits.
So where do we start?
Let's start with the absolute foundation, something maybe creatives don't always focus on enough. Laying the groundwork by building a solid business foundation.
The business side. Crucial.
It really is. This isn't just about artistic talent. It's profoundly about business sense.
Yeah.
Art Chantry, the designer with that raw grunge look, he puts it so blunt.
What does he say?
He observes, and I'm pulling this from the source, graphic design is a weird art form. It is half business, half art. Most people who get into it do so because of the art.
Okay, that sounds familiar.
The successful ones, he says, get into it for the business. You may be a critical success doing art, but you are not going to get rich.
Wow. That's pretty direct. Kind of a wake-up call, isn't it?
Totally. What does that really mean for someone maybe just starting out, super focused on the creative side? It kind of shatters that romantic, starving artist idea.
It really does. It suggests that, creative brilliance alone isn't the whole equation. You have to master the business of your art or your craft, whatever it is.
That feels like a universal principle, right? Whether you're coding, building furniture, consulting, your passion needs that solid business engine behind it to really thrive long-term.
Absolutely. Longevity, real professional success. It's built on understanding the market, understanding client needs, and facing the financial realities. You have to create value people will actually pay for.
Eagerly pay for, hopefully.
Right. It's about translating that passion into a viable economic model.
So that business focus naturally leads to the next big habit. Establishing your professional identity.
Branding yourself.
Exactly. The book is super clear. You must brand yourself effectively before you can expect clients to trust you to brand them. Credibility is everything. What's the biggest trap people fall into here?
Well, the source puts it like this. You can't expect clients to believe you can build their brand if you can't build your own. I think the biggest pitfall is thinking your brand is just like a logo.
Right, or just a tagline.
Yeah. It's way more than that. It's the whole package, your website, your business card, how you communicate, your social media. It needs to be consistent.
And who are you speaking to?
That's key. You need to speak to your potential clients, not just other designers or people in your industry. They need to understand the value you bring in their terms.
Which means having your ducks in a row from day one. Judy Rosbicki and Seth Cheeks in the book, they both stress having a website and business card ready immediately for that instant credibility.
Makes sense. First impressions count.
And there's this neat little practical tip. When someone asks for your business card, give them 2.
2. Why 2?
The idea is they might pass the second one on to someone else.
Ah, that's clever. It's subtle, but it suggests you expect referrals, that your work is shareable. It implies confidence.
Exactly. And it's such a universal thing, isn't it? Doesn't matter if you're a designer, a consultant, a plumber. Showing that bit of foresight just elevates you professionally. It says, I'm prepared, I'm connected.
I like that. Simple, but effective.
Okay, so you've got your identity sorted. Now comes the really thorny part for many creatives, the tricky business of pricing.
Oh, boy. Yeah, this is where a lot of people stumble. How does your pricing actually affect how clients see you?
Nicole Block gives this really stark warning. She says basically, don't start out cheap and expect good clients.
Okay, why not? What's the danger of low pricing?
According to her, low pricing will only get you a lack of sustainable income, more difficult clients who don't appreciate you as a professional, and disrespect in the design community. Ouch.
That's harsh, but probably true in many cases. It signals your value or lack thereof.
Right. She makes this crucial distinction between working for free, like strategically, for a nonprofit maybe, to build your portfolio with clear boundaries.
Right, where you control the scope and the purpose.
Exactly. Versus working for peanuts, which she says just invites endless demands and disrespect. You attract clients who only care about the lowest price, not the quality or expertise.
Yeah, that's a trap. You end up overworked and undervalued. So what's the alternative? Just charge more.
Well, Block's insight is that the higher your rate within reason, the greater the respect for your services. It's counterintuitive maybe, but clients often equate price with quality and expertise.
It's a psychological thing, how you position yourself. Your price is part of your brand message.
Precisely. It's a direct statement about your professional worth, which of course means you need to manage that money side effectively. That brings us to financial discipline and operational efficiency.
Running the business side of the creative business.
Yes. It's not just about the art. You need meticulous financial planning and project management, what's often missed here.
Jenna Kerberger points out something critical. She says, money is one of the most frequently overlooked factors. It comes down to the naive notion that by doing good work, the money will come in. Not true.
Oof, reality check.
Big time. She says, you need to start with a budget for your lifestyle. Ask yourself, how much money do I need to live on for a year? You have to calculate everything: housing, food, transport, cards, taxes. Don't forget taxes.
That's such practical advice for any freelancer or small business owner. Ground your business goals in your actual life needs. Make it concrete.
Exactly. And then it extends to managing the work itself. Judy Rosbicki talks about tracking projects, meticulously date, project number, client name, and tracking your time.
Why is time tracking so vital?
Because, as Rosbicki says, time is directly connected to your income. Every hour needs to be accounted for. She even suggests software like QuickBooks Pro for the budgeting and invoicing. Knowing where your time goes is non-negotiable.
Right, it ties directly to your profitability. And Eric Wolf adds this super practical tip. Always add 15-20% to your estimates for unknowns.
Ah, the contingency buffer. Smart.
Yeah, because things always come up, right? Extra revisions, a new contact person at the client who needs bringing up to speed.
Scope creep is real.
Totally. So building in that buffer gives you resilience. It stops you from having to cut corners later or absorb unexpected costs. It's just smart planning for any project manager, really.
Definitely a habit worth adopting.
Okay, so we've laid the business groundwork. Let's shift now to the interactions. Mastering the art of client relationships. This is where it all comes together, where your brilliant ideas meet real-world needs.
Where the rubber meets the road.
Exactly. And it starts with setting clear expectations and boundaries. What are the pitfalls here? Especially maybe with people you know.
Well, Steve Gordon Jr. uses this strong phrase, keep your clients honest. How? Clear contracts, clear payment terms up front, and getting a down payment before you start.
Why the down payment?
It ensures the client is invested. Skin in the game right from the start. It sets a professional tone immediately.
Makes sense. And Gordon points out something tricky. Those closest to you can often be the greatest offenders. Your friends, your family wanting a deal.
Yeah, the mates rates problem. The source implies that real support means respecting your business practices, not just liking your art and expecting a discount.
So you need to treat them like any other client with the same professionalism.
Essentially, yes. It can be awkward, but setting those boundaries early protects the relationship in the long run. It clarifies that this is your profession, how you earn a living. It ensures mutual respect.
Speaking of clarity, the next habit is understanding and speaking the client's language. This isn't just about avoiding jargon, is it?
No, it's deeper. It's about translating your creative solutions into terms that resonate with the client's business goals, showing the value.
Todd Waterbury from Wheaton plus Kennedy nails this. He says creatives often struggle to translate their ideas into language that's articulate and meaningful to the client. Designers talk design, techies talk tech.
And clients talk business, revenue, market share, engagement.
Exactly. Waterbury gives that great ESPN without sports campaign example. He framed it around the question, what would the world be like without sports?
Right, tying it back to the core value proposition.
Always bringing it back to, can you go without ESPN? It wasn't just a clever ad. It directly addressed ESPN's need to show its indispensable market position. It spoke their language.
That's the key for anyone providing a service. Frame your solution, design, software, advice as an investment that delivers a return. Increased sales, brand awareness, efficiency, whatever matters to them.
So you position yourself as a strategic partner, not just someone executing tasks.
Precisely. And to be that kind of partner, you often need deep client immersion and partnership.
Going beyond just taking the brief.
Way beyond. It's about really understanding their business from the inside out. Stefan Sagmeister, for example, makes it a habit to visit client sites. The book mentions him touring a factory in Europe.
Zumtobel, the manufacturer.
Right, touring the factory floor before designing their annual report, just to immerse himself. And because of that, he came back with a suggestion they immediately went for.
That's commitment. Imagine walking the factory floor to design a report. And World Studio did something similar, but even more intense with the Metropolitan Opera.
What did they do?
They interviewed 13 different department heads. 13. Just to understand all the internal objectives and strategies before even starting the design work.
Wow, how long did that take?
Almost 9 months, according to the source.
9 months of just research and interviews.
Yeah, but they called it a client-involved process that created a really strong, informed platform for the whole identity project.
That level of immersion, that's what separates the good from the great, isn't it? It's not just fact-gathering, it's absorbing the culture, the challenges, the unspoken needs. You can anticipate things.
Deliver solutions that are truly aligned, not just pretty. It builds trust and leads to better, longer-lasting results.
And often, that deep understanding opens doors to more work, which leads to nurturing growth and cost consciousness.
Right. The idea that small projects can bloom into bigger things if you handle them strategically.
World Studio's Isola skincare project is a perfect example. It started small, just naming the company, designing launch materials.
Okay.
But because they did that well and understood the client, it grew organically. They ended up doing product photography, model shoots, and developing an ongoing relationship as the product line expanded.
So delivering value, even on a small scale, can build that long-term trust and lead to more significant work.
Exactly. And Scott Santoro from Worksite took it even further. He had a small project for Gilbert Pape.
The paper company.
Yeah. And he basically invented his own follow-up assignment, a series focused on American subcultures like Coney Island or sturgeon spearing.
Sturgeon spearing, okay. How did that connect?
He cleverly tied it to the paper company's need to showcase their tactile paper stocks in unique, memorable ways. He saw an underlying need and proactively created a solution.
That's really entrepreneurial thinking within a client relationship, seeing potential beyond the immediate task.
It is. Thinking about how you can continuously add value. And on the cost side, being mindful is also key. Keith Bowman talks about showing passion, but also giving sound reasons for creative decisions, especially with smaller budgets.
Helping the client justify the spend.
Right. And Derek Armstrong McNeil offers practical tips for saving money on printing, like using just 2 ink colors but printing on colored paper to get a 3rd color effect, or using different percentages of a Pantone color.
Smart production hacks.
Yeah, and Ramadas stresses talking to printers early to plan efficiently, maximize paper usage, avoid waste. Scott Santoro even suggests maybe offering fewer initial concepts or reducing hours to meet a tight budget, rather than compromising the final quality.
So it's about being a smart, cost-conscious partner without sacrificing the integrity of the work.
Exactly. It shows you understand their commercial realities.
Okay, let's shift focus slightly. Beyond clients, let's talk about the power of collaboration and community. This is huge in any field, but maybe especially creative ones.
Absolutely. Working with others can really push your boundaries. The first aspect is strategic collaboration beyond clients.
Meaning partnering with people who aren't paying you directly.
Yeah, other designers, photographers, filmmakers, writers, people outside your immediate project scope. This can spark unexpected creative growth and open up new avenues.
Like Miles Murray Sorrell FUEL's long collaboration with photographer Jürgen Teller for Marc Jacobs. It highlights that idea that all work has its own unique client, even in internal collaboration.
Or Stefan Sagmeister co-directing a Lou Reed music video with a documentary filmmaker. He learned about video production through that partnership. He wasn't afraid to collaborate and learn, even though he was already established.
And then there's that great example of complementary skills. Art Chantry, the lettering artist, working with Jamie Sheehan, the crack typographer and tech expert, on a film festival poster.
Right, and Rudy Vanderlands from Emigre magazine had that insight. The trick is who you select to work with. It's not just about compromising, it's about finding people whose strengths complement yours.
Letting people do what they're good at and enjoy. It sounds simple, but it's powerful. Find partners who amplify what you do, not just duplicate it.
Create something bigger than the sum of its parts, which leads nicely into mutually beneficial relationships. Partnerships where everyone gets something valuable out of it.
Like the World Studio Foundation working with Adobe on that issue of Sphere magazine about tolerance.
How did that work? What was the benefit?
Well, Adobe got their software, InDesign, in front of a highly relevant audience designers. Direct market access.
Okay, makes sense for Adobe. What about World Studio?
They got funding for the magazine issue, and their designers had to learn InDesign as part of the project, which was a valuable new skill, a clear win-win.
That's a really smart strategic partnership. Not just charity, but reciprocal value.
Exactly. And Todd Waterbury adds that creative teams figure out their own best way to collaborate. Sometimes it involves healthy conflict that leads to stronger ideas.
Through debate and refinement.
Yeah. Other times, it's a deepening of sensibilities with partners who are already on the same wavelength, building on a shared vision.
It implies a need for trust and maturity within the team, doesn't it? Seeing different views as opportunities, not threats. Choosing partners with the right mindset.
Absolutely. Now, this might seem counterintuitive if you're working alone, but the next habit is crucial. Building your network and seeking feedback.
Right. Solo doesn't mean isolated.
Definitely not. Active networking and getting critique are vital. Jenna Herberger has great ideas for freelancers here. Like things like introducing yourself to related businesses, like specialty print shops, building relationships with bigger agencies who might have overflow work, even just bringing in other freelancers for informal feedback.
This
Creating your own
audiobook is
support
brought to you
system.
by
Yeah,
Sunil
or
Sharma,
organizing monthly creative
dedicated
meetups.
designer.
And Derek Armstrong McNeil talks about recreating that art school crit experience. Actively seek feedback.
How does he suggest doing that?
Show your work to 10 people, any people. Ask for feedback, take notes, see if there are consistent themes, then integrate that feedback. It's iterative improvement.
That's practical. And for networking beyond peers.
Steve Gordon Jr. and Christine Godlowski suggest hitting up local business groups, chambers of commerce, even events run by vendors. Get that local intelligence, make broader connections.
Step outside the design bubble.
Exactly. And finally, under this collaboration umbrella, there's contributing to the design community.
Giving back. Why is that important?
It's not just altruism. It genuinely enriches your own practice, broadens your perspective. Scott Santoro from Worksite got involved with the AIGA chapter in New York.
The Professional Design Association.
Right. It let him organize lectures he was passionate about, like pairing Ed Fella and Massimo Vignelli for a talk. The source says it was valuable, even if it took up a lot of his time.
So the value isn't just monetary. It's intellectual stimulation, connections, visibility, maybe just the satisfaction of contributing.
Yeah, strengthening the whole profession. It's that give-to-get idea on a community level.
Makes sense.
Okay, let's keep moving. We've talked business, clients, collaboration. Now let's focus on cultivating creativity and professional growth. Because you still need to keep the creative fires burning, right?
Absolutely. And that starts with how you present yourself. Strategic self-promotion.
But it's not just about ads, is it?
No, the book suggests it's more like a continuous demonstration of your work and your philosophy.
Yeah.
Stefan Sagmeister, for example, kind of lets the work speak for itself.
How so?
He uses posters for his own talks, or even the CD packaging he designs as self-promotional gifts. He sends out hundreds of finished CDs to contacts. The work is the promotion.
That's confidence in the quality. Mark Randall at World Studio, even though clients might not directly care about their foundation work, makes sure his promotional materials always reflect the firm's social mission. It's about authenticity.
Consistency, building that coherent brand story. And sometimes the work itself becomes a major promotional piece, like Art Chantry's books, Some People Can't Surf.
A monograph of his work.
Yeah, cited as an important showpiece. Or Hideki Nakajima's published books acting as his portfolio, building client confidence just by existing. Miles Murray Sorrell FUL even published their own experimental magazines.
Creating their own platform, so it's often about making the output the advertisement.
Largely, yes, though Margot Chase mentions a multi-pronged approach, entering shows, doing mailings, having a strong website, combining methods.
And John C. Jay at Whedon plus Kennedy Tokyo, with things like the Nike Presto campaigns, aim for cultural relevance and ongoing momentum, not just a single launch. He wanted to challenge the status quo of advertising itself.
Making the campaign part of the culture. And then there's the really unconventional stuff. Scott Santoro's postcards.
The ones with photos of trash.
Yeah, illustrating everyday design. They were visual experiments and promo items. Probably confused some people, but definitely memorable.
Stood out from the clutter. Ed Fella did after-the-fact announcements. Graphic souvenirs promoting ideas, not just events.
These aren't direct sales pitches. They're about showcasing a unique, maybe provocative creative mind.
And for more direct methods.
Mavromatis talks about classic direct mail, targeting specific people, followed by persistent phone calls. Nicole Block found success targeting specific events, like bridal fairs, where clients have a clear, immediate need for design services.
The successful by association approach. Be where your clients are looking.
But ultimately, Steve Gordon Jr. brings it back home. The best way to win new clients is by doing great work for your current clients.
Wow them, and they become your advocates.
Exactly. Your work becomes your best marketing. True for any service professional, really.
So beyond promotion, how do you stay creative? That brings us to continuous learning and inspiration. This has to be ongoing, right?
Absolutely. Can't rest on your laurels. Vince Frost hits on this. I'm always surprised at how little experience people have when they come out of college.
Ouch.
But the most important thing is to be enthusiastic and want to learn and grow. The best designers are those that listen and learn. It's that lifelong learner mindset.
How do you cultivate that? Karen Goldberg suggests actively studying work in your field. For designers, she says, study magazine design. Deconstruct successful ones like Harper's Bazaar.
Analyze the structure, the hierarchy, the voice. Understand why it works.
You could apply that to anything, analyzing great code, studying classic film structure, dissecting effective marketing campaigns.
For sure. And Steve Gordon Jr. suggests looking outside your field. Take classes in creative writing, pottery, small business, even knitting. Get a cross-disciplinary creativity boost.
Broaden your inputs. Scott Santoro talks about pursuing intellectual subjects that just resonate with you. His deep dive into psychedelia for a lecture led to a textile client. You never know where connections will form.
That's fascinating. And Ed Fella sustains a personal art practice. Polaroids. Sketchbooks totally separate from his commercial work, but it fuels him and informs everything.
It's about feeding your mind from diverse sources. Hideki Nakajima seeks out great talents in other fields, musicians, fashion designers. He says real creativity is in their brains.
Looking at parallel innovators, Margot Chase just reads a lot. fiction, nonfiction like guns, germs, and steel for broader perspectives.
Nicole Dudka and Christopher Moss use a digital camera to capture everyday inspiration posters, signs, textures, training their eyes. Keith Bowman critiques music using design principles as a mental workout.
So inspiration is literally everywhere. If you actively look for it and train yourself to see connections, it's an active process.
Okay, Nate, for a big one, especially relevant today, adapting to new media and technology. This is more than just learning software, isn't it?
Oh, much more. It's a fundamental shift in thinking. The first point is understanding the digital landscape.
How is digital different?
Alicia Johnson nails it. In the digital world, you have behavior that is dynamic, and crucially, brands are now judged by the way they move. It's not static anymore. You have to ask, how does it behave?
That's a huge shift from a printed page. And Amanda Altman notes that younger generations are so saturated with brand messages
That even small companies have to compete visually with the big players, like Nike. The visual bar is just higher for everyone online.
and the key difference is interactivity.
That's what Adam Larson and Alicia Johnson emphasize, especially for social products like their Comedy Central rebrand example. Comedy is social. Interactivity is the biggest advantage of the medium, designing for participation, not just viewing.
Which leads directly to user-centric design principles. In digital, the user experience is paramount.
Absolutely. Roberta Rosenberg points out a basic truth. People like to look at the pictures. It's easy. Reading text is hard. So prioritize clear messaging first, then the visuals.
Get the core communication right before getting lost in aesthetics.
Exactly. And her advice is gold. Don't make your user feel stupid. We've all been there, right? Confusing navigation, tiny fonts.
Oh, yeah. She says, boomers can't work with 9-point type. It just pisses us off.
Ah.
So true. So, obvious navigation, decent font sizes, keep important stuff above the fold. And her point about skip buttons, if it needs a skip button, take it away. It means you're already annoying the user.
Wow, that's a strong design filter. She compares a website to a shop window, make the user feel secure, happy, not scared off, anticipate their needs, remove friction.
Foundational stuff for any good digital experience.
So how do you actually navigate the tech itself? That's embracing and navigating technology. It's a tool, not a replacement for thinking.
Right. Adam Larson and Daniel Schutt-Smith suggest using templates or frameworks like WordPress themes or CSS frameworks like Blueprint or 960.js, not to limit creativity, but for structure and consistency.
A solid starting point, and collaboration is key here too, right? Definitely. Michelle McCarrick-Truitt and Doug Bartow say, your developer is your friend. Bring them in early. They're problem solvers. They know what's possible technically. Saves headaches later.
Smart. Build that bridge between design and development.
And it's not about throwing out the old principles. Daniel Schutt-Smith stresses that print design fundamentals, fonts, color, composition, white space, are still crucial for screen design.
The medium changes, but the core principles often translate.
Yeah, Alicia Johnson saw the daily on the iPad back then as a kind of midway step, print ideas expressed in a new medium. But there's a warning.
What's the warning?
Doug Bartow warns against relying on technology as a crutch instead of a design mentality. Don't become outdated because you just know software, not design thinking.
The tools change, but the thinking needs to adapt.
Exactly. J.D. Hodge says, don't design for the technology, use the technology to your advantage. And he notes interactive design is still a bit like the Wild West, constantly changing,
This audiobook
requires
is brought to you
bravery
by
and
Sunil
flexibility.
Sharma,
You have to be
dedicated
adaptable.
designer.
See the tech as an enabler, not the end goal. Keep the design mentality front and center.
Precisely.
All right, deep divers, we have covered so much incredible ground. But before we finish, let's touch on maybe the most vital habit for the long haul: achieving balance and sustaining longevity.
Yes, this is critical. Because your business health is totally tied to your personal well-being. It's about sustainability.
Steve Gordon Jr. says it so well. Don't forget the rest of life. He asks, what good is making money if you don't give yourself time to actually enjoy the things it affords you?
It's that age-old question of working to live versus living to work. His advice: actually enjoy the time off, get a life, schedule business goals, yes, but then consciously schedule leisure, hobbies.
Be intentional about it. Jennifer Wilkerson talks about literally putting me on your calendar, scheduling yoga like it's a client meeting you can't miss. Protect that time.
It's about preventing burnout, which is so common in demanding fields, proactive self-care.
And beyond personal balance, there's finding deeper meaning by integrating values and social impact.
Aligning your work with what you care about. Mark Randall at World Studio does this through scholarships for diverse students, mentoring on community projects like anti-gun violence billboards.
Using design for social good. Stefan Sagmeister worked with True Majority because it aligned with his political values, and it gave him creative freedom. It fed him on multiple levels.
Ed Fella had his Robin Hood theory, using resources from paid gigs to help nonprofits. John C.J. aimed for culturally consequential design, with projects like Roppongi Hills in Tokyo integrating art into development.
Even Rudy Vanderlands integrated his environmental values by choosing recycled paper for emigre. It can be big or small actions.
Right. It's not always about pro bono, which Margot Chase notes can be tough for small firms. It's about finding authentic ways to align your work and values, whatever your capacity.
And finally, to keep it all going, you need to focus on sustaining personal creative vitality. How do you keep that inner wellspring full?
It means consciously nurturing yourself. Eric Hines suggests unplugging from the matrix with non-computer activities, silk screening, bookbinding. Use different creative muscles.
Keith Bowman does that mental exercise, critiquing music, using design principles, keeping the analytical mind sharp in new ways.
Steve Gordon Jr.'s unique tips: boost the signal by constantly finding new music, be in pictures by going to movies for imaginative sparks.
I like those. Derek Armstrong McNeil suggests tapping into non-design creativity guitar, photography as a cathartic release, no client pressure.
And Steve Gordon Jr.'s final thought here is powerful. Get outside your comfort zone. Do something genuinely hard mentally, like balancing your checkbook by hand, just to exercise different parts of your brain.
Keep stretching yourself. Keep that mental agility.
Exactly. Lifelong mental stretching.
Wow. Okay, that was truly a deep dive. We've covered so much. The art-business balance, strategic client relationships, the power of collaboration and community.
Continuous learning, adapting to tech, strategic promotion, and that crucial work-life balance for longevity.
And these habits from graphic designers, they really do offer insights that go far beyond design, don't they?
Absolutely. Branding yourself, setting expectations, understanding your audience, collaborating effectively, learning constantly, adapting, prioritizing well-being. These are universal keys. They apply to you no matter what field you're in.
And remember, we mentioned the book often gives a rule and its counter-commandment, like use a grid, but also break the grid.
Right, that inherent tension.
So the provocative thought for you, listener, is what does that tension mean for your work? How do you decide when to follow the established wisdom, those proven habits we talked about?
And when do you need the courage to break the rules, to forge a new path, to innovate?
It's like they say, you need to know the rules really well
before you can effectively choose to break them. It needs to be a conscious, informed decision, not just ignorance. Knowing why the rule exists helps you understand how and why to break it purposefully.
To create something genuinely new, something that pushes boundaries.
Exactly, something that sets a new standard.
So go forth, deep diver. Chew on these ideas, see how they fit your own journey, and keep asking those important questions.
We'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.